the stairs, turning from landing to landing, higher and higher, and he came out of the surprising changes of level to the top floor of F staircase.
I'm going to read more of the third chimpanzee.
At the end of the state there, however,
and upload my video to YouTube and to Facebook. I'll discuss it. Kind of just how you can do videos. I want people to talk to me about learning how to socialize. So I'm understanding human condition by reading The Third Chimpanzee by Jared Diamond. I'm listening to Leaf by Leaf podcast, which is inspiring me to read. So I'm going to read and drink monsters, maybe have some pancakes. I don't know.
Not quite an inclined plane, yet not by any means a regular stair. The edges of stones, neat but primitive, having been suffered to project irregularly to serve for rude steps or a kind of assistance. Through this narrow stairwell, Darkenville crept to the top of the house, which was partly ruinous and full of nooks. There was a good deal of hooded furniture.
My purpose in rehearsing
upside down and shrouded with linen,
our situations to help us avoid repeating our mistakes, to use knowledge of our past and our propensities in order to change our behavior.
The dust was formidable.
That's the hope behind the dedication. That's the hope behind the dedication of this book. Which turns out okay.
Appeared and received air from circular holes. Wheel windows that fell open from their peaks that were held by a chain. There were rooms up there.
A volume that ranges over such a broad canvas as this one has to be selective. Every reader is bound to find some absolutely crucial favorite subjects omitted, some other subjects pursued in inordinate detail, but you won't feel you are misled. I'll lay out and discern my own particular interests and where they come from. My father's a physician, and mother a musician with a gift for languages. When I was asked a child on my career plans, my response was that I wanted to be a doctor like my father. My last year in college, that goal had become greatly transformed into the way to go of medical research. So I trained in physiology, therein which I now teach and do research at the University of California Medical School in Los Angeles. However, at the age of 7, I'd also become interested in birdwatching, and I had been fortunate to go to school to let me delve into languages and history. After I got my PhD, the prospect of devoting the rest of my life to a single professional interest in physiology began to look increasingly oppressive. At that point, happy constellation of events of people gave a chance to spend a summer in the highlands of New Guinea. Ostensibly, the purpose of my trip was to measure nesting success of New Guinea birds, a project that collapsed dismally within a few weeks when I found myself unable to locate a single bird nest in the jungle. Yet the red purpose of this trip succeeded completely. To indulge in my thirst for adventure and birdwatching, one of the wildest remaining parts of the world. When I saw the New Guinean crowd of birds, including bowerbirds and birds of paradise, I developed a parallel second career in bird ecology, evolution, and biogeography. So what this Leaf by Leaf guy is doing, he's doing this. See, I'm reading The Third Chimpanzee by Jared Diamond. Starts out about chimpanzees and how they're genetically pretty close to humans. 99% of our genes are shared with chimpanzees. And then it goes into the social aspects of evolution. I know I gotta impress myself. Not used to doing these videos. The bird watching, and my memory's not as good as this guy's about Leaf by Leaf, right? Yes, it is. I'm good at it, but when I'm put on the spot, I tend to freeze up. But it's okay. I'm doing something to my room. I'm making it cozier. I moved my couch. I think I'm gonna place some more books on my bed because I guess I haven't learned
including the Queen Gertrude of Denmark from
enough from
Hamlet and Rapunzel. Even includes La Belle Dame Sans Merci, Sappho.
Let me write a little bit in my journal. I'll be right back.
Not the actress, of course. One cool device or setup that Theroux uses is that he has Darkenville play the Day of Wrath portion from Mozart's Requiem, and it's playing while this litany is being spoken by Crucifer. And it's actually a lot of fun. The music will be driving your intonation. What is amazing about this is that it's not merely just a list of these women, but in almost every case, they're complete with their own epitaph. This cracked me up. This is when Darkenville knows everything that's going on. He knows
Where'd your gum go?
Gilbert, not Govert, He knows they're going to get married. He's making all these wild plans of what he's going to do. And in the midst of it, he says, then calling in one special telegram to Zutphen Farm, in which it was warned that, short of an interplanetary cataclysm, he'd appear at the forthcoming wedding in the company of Abaddon, the Angel of Ice, and 60 other apparitions from the abhorrent deep. When I read that, in context especially, it's just hilarious.
Here's some notes. Here's some notes on what I'm putting together on my thoughts on everything, man.
In order to rob from another life,
so
stolen from himself. For hate not only hates what it lacks,
is there a theory?
What it loved. During the revenge chapter, is when we get one of the linkages of
in the
mind and a cat. He says, Crucifer says, I mean precisely
that
what are the other ways to skin a cat. That is foreshadowing setting up the next chapter, the Why Don't You chapter that I talked about in my review. I don't know exactly what was intended here, but obviously the last couple of chapters appear after his Darkenville's death, and even describe his death. And we're told that the doctor who was attending to him and whom Darkenville could never pay took the black tin box containing the large manuscript. It was suborned by the doctor in the stead of due fee, with a view to adding a penny to his competence. So I don't know if we're to believe that the Black Duchess and the end, these last two chapters, couldn't have been written by Darkenville.
And then, so do this.
Perhaps those were written by the doctor and amended to the end of the manuscript. I hope this was worthwhile. Just wanted to sort of ramble on. This was just really an outstanding novel to me. This is high art. The craftsmanship. It's a tragedy. It's out there.
It's not going to be perfectly coordinated. So, folks.
Today, leaf by leaf. J.R. by William Gaddis.
We read to succeed, folks. So what's the next one? Find my nicotine gum. I have put that in your journal.
I am very excited about this video. J.R. by William Gaddis. This is pretty cool. Worked out well this year because NYRB, of course, is reissuing. By the time I'm posting this video, they have reissued both JR and the Recognitions. I think I'm posting this after the Recognitions comes out. They're being published, JR first, and the Recognitions with about a month apart. So I'm doing videos on each of them. This is my JR video, and in 2 weeks I'll post my Recognitions video. These are two of my absolute favorite novels. In fact, the Recognitions may be my favorite 20th century American novel, whereas Moby Dick is my favorite 19th century American novel. But I need to think about that just a little bit more before I commit to it 100%. But it worked out really well because at the beginning of this year, I picked JR as one of my 10 books that I would read this year. Spoiler alert, I didn't get to all of them. I think I got to half of them, maybe 60% of them, 6 out of 10. But JR was on there. It was the only book I was going to reread this year. And then, of course, the impetus to read not only this one, but then the Recognitions as well came about.
So he's saying he has so much that he wants to read and he never stops. The thing is, you don't have to build the mountain. You have to build
Alexander Theroux's Darkenville's Cat, just to throw that at you again.
The progress. Focus on how big the progress.
Both of them.
What is this?
And
How big the progress should be. if you're looking at that Iraq thing like you don't want to remember it, it's still an important book. And it seems to be why you brought it over here. What if that's the one, man?
A little more polished and to the point. As far as a book review for these, you can go and read those.
Threatening Storm, the case for invading Iraq. Let's see what it says.
Quick survey.
I'm gonna read it. Nobody cares. In the Threatening Storm, Kenneth M. Pollock, one of the world's leading experts on Iraq, provides a massively insider's perspective on the crucial issues facing the United States as it moves toward a new confrontation with Saddam Hussein. The past 15 years as analyst at Iraq for the Central Intelligence Agency and the Security Council, Kenneth Pollock has studied Saddam as closely as anyone else in the United States. In 1990, he was one of only 3 CIA analysts to predict the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait. He was the author of the CIA's history of Iraqi military strategy and Operation Eagle 4. Pollock gained rare insight into the methods of working one of the most brutal regimes since Stalin's Russia, examining all sides of the debate and bringing their keen eye to military and geopolitical forces to work. Pollock ultimately comes to this controversial conclusion. Through all mistakes, the perfidy of other Saddam's cunning, the Axis looks at a few good policy options regarding Iraq. Increasingly, the option that makes the most sense if the United States wants a full-scale invasion, eradicate Islam's weapon of mass destruction, rebuild Iraq as a prosperous and stable society. For the United States, the Iraqi people, and the entire region. Pollock believed for many years the United States could prevent Saddam from threatening the stability of the Persian Gulf and the world through containment, combination of sanctions and leading military operations. Here, Pollock explains why containment is no longer effective, while other policies intended to deter Saddam ultimately pose a greater risk than confronting him now. Bringing its version of nuclear weapons, it returns to its stated goal of dominating the Gulf region. This was said the war should be put on the last resort, Pollock writes. Ruxman believes that in the case of the threat from Iraq, they have come to the last resort. After a review of the region's authority and force of intelligence report, Pollock outlines what the leaders of neighboring Arab countries are thinking, what was necessary to gain their support for an invasion, how successful this operation would be mounted, what the cost would be, and how Saddam might react. He examines the state of Iraq today, its economy, its armed forces, political system, status of its weapons and destruction, the best way to understand them. I can make an egg and cheese burrito and do this all night. And it's not that the subject matter, it's just that it's finally clicking what's interesting. I'm interested in actually not the war aspect of this threatening storm. I'm interested in the politics in this book, the case for invading Iraq. I'm interested in the politics, what took place, why that had to happen. But I also am going to go to school, so I believe in public systems. I just think it's been a minute since I've been there. And the terrifying security apparatus that keeps Saddam in power. Pollock also analyzes the last 20 years of relations between the United States and Iraq, and how the two countries reached an unhappy standoff that currently prevails. Commenting on his insights and full of detailed information about how leaders on both sides make their decisions, the threatening storm is a guide to understanding one of the crucial foreign policy challenges of our time. Don't you need your mouth to read out loud too? That's true, I gotta stop. Kenneth M. Pollock wrote this book as Olin's Senior Fellow, Director of National Security Studies for the Council on Foreign Relations. From 1995-1996 and 1999-2001, he served as Director of Gulf Affairs for the National Security Council, where he was the principal working level official responsible for implementation of U.S. policy toward Iraq. For his time in the Clinton administration, he spent 7 years at the CIA as a Persian Gulf military analyst. He was the author of Arabs at War, Military Effectiveness, 1948-1951. He is a graduate of Yale University. He took a PhD in political science from Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He was in Washington, D.C. with his wife and is director of research at the Sabin Center for Middle East Policy at the Brookings Institution.
Which are not so much about corporations.
Advanced praise for the threatening storm.
About the fictions on which they are.
One of the most important books in American foreign policy in years. There's no greater strategic challenge than Iraq, and no one better qualified to tackle this kind of Pollock. Texas comprehensive, high-quality professional analysis for Republican in real time is extraordinary. From now on, all sorts of debate of how to handle Saddam starts here. Gideon Rose managing under foreign affairs. Iraq is at the top of America's foreign policy agenda. This book should be at the top of your reading list. Kenneth Pollock approaches the problem of Saddam Hussein without ideological blinkers or prejudices. Provides a clear-eyed account of breakdown in American policy towards Saddam Hussein. Makes a powerful case for shifting that policy. Whether or not you agree with the policy's solution, I do. You will admire the threatening storm, but it is intelligent, balanced, and measured. Followed by fair-minded analysis on topic that rarely gets any. Before you make up your mind on Iraq, read this book. Free Zakaya, Newsweek International. Kenneth Pollock has really written a comprehensive and insightful analysis of the problem of Iraq posed in the United States. This is a must-read for those just desiring an in-depth understanding of this showing this complex problem, Those are responsible for that policy. General ethnicity zoning, yes, up to higher. So, folks, let me take some notes. So, I am not threatening. I believe
John Gardner and
in
Jonathan Franzen might be understood as a visceral reaction
policy.
to a work that so elicits
I
readers'
want
participation to the point of becoming a collaborator
safe
or a co-creator.
countries.
As has been demonstrated,
I
there is no
believe
serious argument,
in
argumentative support for the difficulty
law
claim.
and
Yet, its
order.
persistent influence
And
suggests
start
that
to like the
Faulkner
subject
is crossing the line of what's allowable.
Supreme
Gaddis
Court.
thus advances.
I like the idea of Supreme Court. I got this.
Themes of entropy, cybernetics, and social Darwinism.
This is music lithography book, journal book. It has music questions, but I can write it as a journal. It's got a bookmark too, so I'll put that on there. I realized if this dude can show the world who he's trying to be with this leaf by leaf podcast, then I'm gonna try uploading some on YouTube too. I decided that, folks. I'm gonna try. Thank you, folks.